Assalamu alaikum once again and welcome back to Salaam Britain. Well, now we have a very special guest joining us today. She is an internationally respected speaker, brand visionary, and the creator of two pioneering approaches called brand liberation and value design. With over 4 decades of experience across luxury, culture, and media, she has worked with global brands, leaders, and visionaries, helping them align personal awakening with business innovations. She is known for her transformational talks, her ability to bring deep spiritual intelligence into the world of enterprise, and for guiding people to build businesses that are not profitable but meaningful and regenerative. Please welcome Donna Brown to Salaam Britain. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, Shaz. How lovely to see you.
Yes, how it's great to have you here on Salaam Britain this morning. Thank you so much. I know it's been a long way for you to come, and obviously we've had the tube strikes, and then it's been wet on top of that, so it's slowed down the traffic and everything. But we really do appreciate that you're here today to share with us your journey and your experience, and so we can learn from you as well. So tell us a little bit, Donna, about your rich career and how this all came about. Where did your journey begin, and where did the inspiration come from?
Well, I've been country hopping. I was born and raised in Canada, and after, for a couple of decades in classical music, I decided to move into fashion. There was quite a moment in Italy, and I sort of do what a lot of young people do. I picked up everything and left and started in a new country. And from fashion, I moved into home design and media, and I've done a lot of things over 40 years. So I'll try and keep it short.
No, that's okay. But how did you make the switch from then luxury, brand and all of that, fashion, to going into a bit more of a culture and world of spirituality and all of that?
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. I changed sectors so many times, but by invitation, I would be working in, let's say, in fashion, and I would be invited to design home textiles or be the fashion coordinator of a home furnishings brand, or to design, a magazine for a publishing company. And
so they kind of still were in line with each other, really. There wasn't like you changed many sectors, but there wasn't a total change from the, from the creative side of things.
Yes, exactly. I think that's what really led me into the brand work, is what would seem like career changes were instead really following that golden thread of what do I do with these companies and what it is that I can offer them. And that led me more into sort of brand vision, and my spiritual path, as I did a lot of Buddhist studies. I've been studying that for decades, really changed my point of view of how businesses operate, or how we operate in the world, and what opportunities we have through, brands and businesses to make a better world, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ideally, we want to do something in the world that it is about making it a better place.
Yes.
And also something where we feel that we are fulfilled in what we do, and also to be able to give back. We want to see the effects of that benefit other people as well. So tell us a little bit more about this branding. What kind of people you've been working with? What kind of organizations?
I've worked with everything from impact investment funds to individual creatives to legacy brands. It's very interesting, but they all come for the same reason, really to know more about themselves, and for me to help them see themselves for who they are, go back to the essence of who they are, because quite often, you'll make decisions along the way, either in life as an individual or as a business, that kind of maybe lead you a little bit astray, and you're trying to get back to the roots of who you are and what do people want from you now. And that's a very interesting path. And so all of these things, brand liberation and value design, really speak to how can we be the best of who we are, because how can the world want anything but the best of who we can be?
Absolutely. And there's something really peaceful about you, Donna. You speak as if you're a therapist. Does that come from your spiritual side? Because you come across very soothing.
Thank you so much. It also comes from a lot of therapy, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. We all get lots of therapy, and it's good to. It's good to. And if you're not, you're missing out.
Exactly. It comes from that, but also a huge spiritual path, because I think that, in this world, there's so much invested. There are all kinds of statistics about, the trillions of dollars spent on personal development and individual paths, and there's a little bit of a dichotomy of what we feel business is or can be, and how we're supposed to behave in a business world. But it is just one thing. Everything has the same flavor. So how I do business can and should be the same way I offer you a cup of tea or look after a loved one.
Yeah.
There is no separation, and helping people to understand that and see that, I think then everything we do can be transformative.
Yeah, yeah. So, you come across like a very, as I said, a very calm, spiritual person. And so how are you then, how there must have been, the when was the turning point where you decided to shift this kind of energy into business?
I think the turning point came for me through my own personal practices and then seeing how it emanated out into my life. And I had some wonderful experiences having some very illustrious Buddhist teachers in my home and looking after them and understanding what that meant and the significance that you can bring to things. So I learned a lot about intention, about motivation, and about offerings, and making offerings to the world. To, as I said, you can make an offering to anyone, and that really, that lived practice, I think, that lived experience of looking after spiritual teachers really taught me a lot about how it's the same for everyone and everything we do.
Yeah, yeah.
And that really shifted for me.
Yeah, I mean it is really actually profound, because when you make the intention, it's you're paving the way, and even if along the way if it doesn't happen, we say this in Islam as well, that that is still counted as an act of good deed because you already you already planted the seed in your head. So there's that, but tell us a little bit more about the brand Liberation. How did that idea come about?
That is such a beautiful process that came to me through working with an individual. She's one incredible creative, and it just dropped into me this complete vision of how she had very disconnected parts of herself, and we all do. We leave parts behind, or we change careers, and I used to do this and now I do that, and we kind of seminate bits of ourselves along the way instead of gathering the best of what we learned from those periods, from those jobs, from those experiences into our new, into what we're trying to bring forward into the world. So it's really that I worked with archetypes and personalized archetypes, because archetypes, I don't know how much you're familiar with them, but generally archetypes are really big words like teacher, guide, mystic. I mean, they're big words that don't always relate to an individual, but if you can go back into their lives and find a part of them that embodied that archetype for them, then I talk about, when Shaz was an artist, or when Shaz was, had that sort of gift of hospitality, and that you'll have a body memory of that and a lived experience of that. And so it's easier for people to kind of bring themselves into a whole holistic vision of who they can be, who they are, and who they can be, and that's super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting you said that about the body has a body memory, and it holds on to things, and so it almost does feel like therapy then, because for your client, you're trying to really fully understand them. In terms of helping them with their branding and their business, you've got to understand them, and it's not just always about the vision; it's also who they are. And so in some sense, it is a little bit, on a deeper level that you have to build that kind of relationship with them. How did you find, did you find that, people were a little bit reluctant to have that kind of way of understanding them, or they were open to this, and I think quite happy with the success of it afterwards, or,
What's really interesting is that, I think when you attract the people that you want to work with or meant to work with, or and so people who come to me are ready for that kind of experience, and it's a sort of a long process in the sense that the time we spend together may not be that long, but the effects of it are long-lived. So it shifts your perception of yourself and what it is you can create and what it is you can do. So I think you can only choose what it is you want to create, either as a brand or as an individual or as a larger company, by understanding, who you are in your essence. And that essence is what you try to bring forward into what's relevant for the world today. So if you get that right, then people never have to kind of rethink that again.
Yeah.
They may choose the form, different forms that it may take, but they have that sort of very core understanding of who they are and what it is they have to offer to the world.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, this next question that I'm going to ask you might be a little bit of a I don't know, difficult question, because it is a bit open and generic as well. In some sense, it's very, so in what you see right now in terms of the branding and designs out there, what kind of gaps do you see? There's a lot of people that are watching, I know, with businesses, so it'd be good to know.
So for the businesses, and I think for everybody, how many times have we been convinced by what's popular or what's a trend or what we think is going to sell, and we try to do something for external validation or for someone else, whether it's a market or a person, a relationship. And the more you can go back to yourself and have that very solid, grounded idea of who you are, then the way you interact with, let's say, whether your clients or your loved ones or your friends, doesn't really matter. And so I think that's the important thing for people to understand, that by going back to themselves, they'll be able to relate to the world in a much better way. And it's actually a much more statistically more profitable way. There are a lot of studies showing that, like what people like to call, the lifetime value of a client or the profitability of a company is directly related to our perception of them as a company that has values and that upholds certain values that we also consider important.
Yeah, absolutely. But so give us a bit more of the work that you've done, the kind of companies, kind of brands that you've worked with.
Well, as I said, it's very interesting being involved with an impact investment fund, and they're looking at, and because their goal is, their mission is to change the world through financing and finding financing for and sustaining companies that are trying to change things. It's very interesting to look at what has not even come to, let's say, necessarily to market yet, or is very early stages, and to see what people are thinking about in the medical field, in the health field, in education. It's really, really interesting. And so to help shape those brands so that they can be really dialed into their very best offer, because a lot of startups are focused on what they call the minimum viable product and trying to get things to market. And they're very focused on certain instruments and fundraising, but often that sort of slightly larger picture, which would help them more, they don't have really a lot of time to consider, so I help them with that. And with individuals and people who run, let's say, family offices or large businesses, if you can work with founders and, and the CEOs to understand themselves and understand that company better, then they can make better choices along the way. So I work, as I said, from graphic designs to design agencies to people who create media products and kind of everything in between.
Yeah, so
really.
quite a vast range of different.
Because the work is the same, it's just different. It just depends who wants to do that kind of work, and I think it's all.
So what really stands out? Which of the work that you've been doing, or the brand or the business that really stood out for you, in terms of your input that's had an impact on their business?
Well, there's been a lot over the years, to be honest. Relaunching a brand really successfully. I once designed myself out of a job I loved because I repositioned the company so well they were able to sell it for a lot, which was good for them. And it's like I kind of penciled my way out of a job, and I thought, well, that wasn't the best.
Yeah.
But I think quite often it's, in the end, businesses are made of people. And so when you're working with a person, so the personal breakthroughs and that personal understanding, whether it's a CEO of a company, to all of a sudden see something about their company and how it can grow and new ways it can expand and new ways it can be of service to the world and for them to be ultimately who they are, is always incredibly fulfilling. And to watch the people come back to you after 6 years or 8 years or 10 years, it's like, you changed my life and you changed my business, and I'm still using what you gave me. And I think in a world of everybody trying to get results within a quarter, within 90 days, that's the typical business speak. And it's like everybody's got their heads down and looking at just the next step. But that's also what's kind of gotten us into that mess. So you kind of have to raise your gaze a little bit and look a little bit further ahead to make sure this sort of dot-to-dotness of decision-making doesn't send you very off track. So for me,
it is difficult because people do want instant instant results, and we live in an instant world. Instant food, instant everything, instant travel, instant instant prayers. We live in a time where everyone wants everything quick, and so it can be difficult. But you have worked with very influential people in the world, and so what has that taught you? What experience has that given you, working with these kind of people?
That I think for the most part, most people want to do the right thing and the best thing.
No, that's
quite
good to
often
know.
they don't. And it doesn't always look like that.
It doesn't always look like
There's
that.
a lot going on now that would make you think that it isn't like
Yeah.
that. But I think there are a lot of people doing the right thing. And even if, and what I find also very inspiring is people who maybe have inherited a business or they're further on in their career or their life, and certain things have grown a certain way, and now they're having kind of an aha moment for themselves and saying, well, now how do I change this? So there's a willingness to change and a willingness for things to be better.
Yeah.
So while everything else is going on that is going on right now, there are also a lot of people who are trying to make things significantly better. And there are so many businesses in the world and so many ways of helping, and so directly and indirectly, that if we all harness what we value as individuals through the things that we create,
Yeah.
whether it be a TV show or a business, we'll always need chairs, we'll always need tables, we'll always need homes and clothes, but how do we make these significant in some way?
Well, this kind of brings me to my next question, is because obviously, there is a nice success stories, and there's a lot of brands, and there's a lot of great businesses. But what are the challenges that you've faced, and how have you grown, internally from that?
Well, I think the biggest challenges for a lot of companies is to maybe allow themselves to grow differently and to shift what they consider a success.
Yeah.
And so that at one point, the business schools, but Harvard Business School used to, define what is the purpose of a business, is to provide shareholder value. There's nothing sadder that I've ever heard, and they're still, I don't want to diss anybody, but kind of, they're still saying that, but that can't be true. Well, they've chosen to make that true, but that doesn't mean it is true. It's not intrinsically true. And so that for people to understand that they have the power to make anything meaningful. And so any business could be meaningful, even the financial industry, which we have a lot of, there are a lot of challenges in each sector.
Yeah.
And it's it's the choices we've made in the past that have brought us the results we have now. But these same businesses could bring different results if we valued slightly different things. Not 100%, but slightly. We don't have to sacrifice necessarily profit, but maybe a certain growth rate. But what if we valued other things? People's happiness, how we affected people along our supply chains. The people who are involved indirectly, for example. We're here in a beautiful studio, and who's around us? What's the society happening around us? What's the community happening around us? How can we influence that positively? And I think if we start looking at each business as an infinite number of possibilities of influence and providing significance to people, I think that would really change how we make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, earlier, it just reminds me a little bit about what we were talking about earlier on the show, that Islamically, in terms of your status in the sight of God, or your rank is depending on how you treat others,
Absolutely.
not your wealth or what your possessions. It's really about how you treat your kindness, your respect, your patience with people. So I guess what you're saying, a lot of the stuff you're saying is a lot of that, taking into consideration who you work with and how the impact you have when you're around people and what they see. Because you're almost like planting seeds or, leaving a footprint, of where you've been and stuff. So, you want to leave that on a positive note. But anyhow, I want to know a little bit more about your personal life, if I can ask. So how do you manage, how are you managing the balance, because that's also a big thing. If you're, coming, you're a successful brand, designing person that's, helping visionary, helping with a lot of people and a lot of businesses. And then, you're seeing the successes. You've been in it for a long time. How do you balance that with your personal life?
I think it becomes one thing, how I treat my children and how I treat my clients and how I treat, people I meet casually. And if you see it all, I see it all as one thing. I really don't see a huge separation, and I think that makes me very happy. Like, I like to do things that feel like a natural expression of who I am and what I care about and what I'm able to offer to the world. And when you do that, whatever you're offering, whether it's a home-cooked meal or a vision for a very large company, I don't want to say there's no difference, but it has the same flavor, if you, I think.
So I guess, again, it goes back to aligning. You've aligned the both. And is that what you recommend as well for businesses to kind of make that, like, you know, into one? And how they practice their business into the way they are practicing their everyday life.
Right, and there are a lot of paths to get there, right? There's so many spiritual practices, there's so many practices that have, you know, that are not, you know, religion-based or, you know, a particular philosophy. But I think we all have that desire. I think there's certain human values that are common to everyone.
Kindness and being respectful, compassionate, empathetic. You know, just is a human.
Exactly.
Is a human thing. You know, it should be a human thing. It's just,
Right.
you know, the bare minimum or basics of being a human. But you know, then I suppose that's where spirituality is there to remind us when we do become a little bit out of tune or something, to actually go back to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit more about in terms of you know, challenges. So what kind of challenges you have faced?
Well, I think that as a person or with my clients.
Yeah, either way, your
well,
personal or with, you know, with the business.
So I think the challenges with businesses, I'll do that first, I think, is to help reassure people that they can relax into certain things, right? Everything is so performative, everything is very high speed, everybody has a lot of pressure to, you know, deliver, whatever that means. And to understand that life is more spacious than that, I think, is really important. And for me, you know, I've changed countries twice. Well, I was born in Canada, I lived in Italy for decades, and I now live in France. And I do a lot of work in the UK. But I think for me personally is, you know, finding the places where I can make the most difference, finding the connections and the people where I can offer the best of what I have to offer. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're a musician or a chef or a, you know, a philosopher, or a therapist or a doctor. I mean, we're all trying to give the best of ourselves, I think, for the most part. So I think that's probably my biggest challenge, really, is to, you know, to find those people who are willing and ready to do the work and not just look at it as a philosophical exercise, because ultimately I feel that any sort of spiritual practice is really meant to make your life practically better here and now. And it's not so future based in many ways. There can be some future aspects to it, but essentially that's to help you in the here and now.
But I can imagine there must be, you know, people that don't want to do the work, in the sense that they want business, they want success, they want money, they want that kind of the package that comes with it, perhaps even fame and stuff. But, you know, with the work within, internally, can be sometimes challenging for them to align that, because you want, as you said, you want to be able to give a fully fledged life of a fulfilling life for themselves and for them to be able to give, you know, to others. But it's not always at the forefront, is it, or for everybody?
No.
But anyhow, there is something else that you are doing. You're writing a book, or
I am writing a book.
Yes, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it doesn't even have a working title yet. I've been struggling with that. I have a few things on the go, but essentially I've worked a lot with plants and a lot with nature over the decades, and I've learned so much about plants and how they work with each other and how they work. Plants. Yeah. And really, it's going. I have this word that I love about flourish. I love the word flourishing. So human flourishing is what I really care about. And if you think about tending a garden, you know, not every plant or tree or bush in the garden will need the same things. And the garden is beautiful when everything gets what it needs for what it is. So it can be its best. And I feel there's a lot to learn from that. But also our relationship with nature, you know, whether how we commune with nature, how we adapt to it, whether we're working with bonsais or formal gardens or sort of the more wild gardens. I think there's a lot to be learned on how to work with ourselves and how to work with others.
I mean,
and so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that, you know, you talk about nature and plants. It makes, you know, we're all plants in some way. But I love that you know, you put that together and you've implemented that in your book about nature.
Yes.
And that kind of same way. So that's great. When are we looking looking to get this?
I don't know because I don't have a date yet with the publisher, so I'll keep
okay.
you. I'll let you know.
That's okay.
I would love to let you know when.
Keep us up to date, and do let us know. But again, this ties into a lot of spirituality.
Yes.
And again, it doesn't. Of course, all the religions would implement that. But even if you were someone who wasn't getting that from the information from religion, just spending time in nature has this pull that pulls you into spirituality.
And I think it's important to notice, right, that the people who struggle the most live in cities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's a relatively unnatural way to live, and I think that they're not supportive necessarily of our flourishing, and so. Yeah, I think that nature has a lot to teach us. Yeah,
absolutely. I totally agree with that. I'm all for that. But somebody that's watching today and, is starting off, similar to what you're doing, and, what kind of advice would you give to them on their journey?
I'll try to keep it short. I have a few things. So a lot of brand work, people will ask other people what they think of them. What do you think of my brand? What do you think of me? But people... If I ask someone that, they're only going to be able to judge me from the little knowledge they have about me, generally in the past. They don't know what I'm holding in my heart that I want to bring forward in the future. So I would suggest that they don't do that, and that they trust themselves to know themselves and to go on a journey of knowing themselves and knowing that, as I said earlier, we have to want the best of who you can be. Why would we want the worst? So it doesn't make any sense to worry about what other people want or expect from you. It's really about who are you, what is it that you hold, what is it that you would love to do, what is it that would make you feel sort of most alive and most, fully activated, if you like, right? It's that self-actualization. Statistically, there are 8 billion people on the planet. Somebody's got to want what you have to offer. So I think we worry too much about the external things without really grounding ourselves in that, and to not quite worry so much. And there's Dr. Seuss has this expression about being youer than you. So be as much you as you can be, and it will be easier for you to find the people who want what you have to offer.
And that's brilliant. And again, it goes back to, we're talking about spirituality, and we're talking about a little bit like therapy as well. It's about, internally, because it is, a lot of it is to understand yourself. Before you can do anything for anyone else, you've got to understand yourself and what you are able to, give and what you can work with. And so that only comes from when you are a little bit more connected internally. So, a lot of spirituality and a lot of connection and therapy, so it seems, but also being in nature is that kind of therapy as well, which helps you to, have clarity in your own thoughts and your vision, So just, before we wrap up and everything, but I wanted to know a little bit about when you meet your clients, do you sit and, you go over things, do you take it away before you come back with something, and how much time do you spend?
Always. You always take some time, because you may have some intuitions about what might be helpful for them, but I don't think there's any benefit in giving snap answers unless it's an easy thing to answer. Yeah. And there's a lot to be said about sort of, again, that reflective process, that intuitive and creative process of what's possible, and then you back that up with maybe some, some research, or there's a lot of things that go into making a proposal for a company. And for people, and quite often, and then there's an interplay. Obviously, they're involved in that, and I think the more involved they are in the process, especially as when they're founders or creatives, the easier it is for them to perceive, let's say, the direction or any shifts as natural, and a natural consequence of what they have discovered about themselves. So it's a bit of both, but I tend not to give snap answers as much as sometimes. Yeah. We all would love to, right? Just I know. But give it a little bit of time and settle, and it's a lovely
I suppose
process.
That's how you would get a bit more of a vision, is by taking some time out and really just working through with everything you collected over about that person and their business and their vision. But you're changing lives. Donna. You're changing lives, and
too kind.
you're connecting them to them within them, themselves, and giving a true purpose to the brand, and that's brilliant. It's beautiful. But
thank you.
it's honestly been such a pleasure to speak with you today. It's been great, and we've learned a lot about your journey. And may your journey continue, to be great, and going strength to strength. And may a lot of people see that the purpose of more than a business, than a true purpose of fulfilling inside, and to be able to give back to others. But thank you so much, Donna.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.